Welcome to the online course conversion project overview, a part of the online course conversion training kit that was done pursuant to the conversion of courses under the agro-processing and business management and health and wellness tourism associates degrees. I am Aisha Bailey, principal consultant at MLR Technology and Innovation, and I will be giving you a quick overview today on this particular project. In this overview, I'll be giving a quick summary of the key components of the online course conversion project, as well as its scopes and key outcomes. I'll also be looking at the methodologies that were employed in the execution of the project. I'll be also giving a more detailed review of the outcomes or the deliverables that were developed from this project, and then providing you with some additional information if you want to learn more about the project and more about any spin-off activities that have emerged out of this particular project. Now, this presentation really serves two main purposes. One, to give you a general overview of the project itself, its objectives and its outcomes. But the second objective is to give you some insight into how you could manage a similar project that your institutions or a group of institutions would like to do if they are considering converting or developing online courses as adjunct resources for the hybrid learning modalities, or if there are new programs that are being developed, what would be some of those key and critical steps in moving those forward. So this presentation or this project acts as a case study for any additional work that needs to be done on similar projects. So let's do a quick overview. The purpose of this particular project is really focused on assisting institutions, particularly the partner institutions under the advanced program, in helping them to adjust to the changes in the teaching and learning structures and strategies as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And even beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, there are many opportunities to utilize these new tools in enhancing the delivery of new curricula that has been developed. So more specifically, the purpose of the project focuses on the development of relevant content, particularly where there are specific gaps that may have already existed in the delivery of this new curriculum. Now, as you may or may not know, if you're new to the partner institutions or new to a particular institution, the applied associate's degree in agro-processing and business management and health and wellness tourism are two new curricula, two new programs. And because they're new, the process of the development of content is still in train. So naturally there will be some existing gaps, and the purpose of this project is to help in developing content where those gaps occur and ensuring that they're developed for delivery that can be facilitated online. The second objective is to repurpose existing course outlines. So faculty members, institutions would have had existing course content. We utilized those approaches, we utilized some of those pieces of content and repurposed it for online delivery and to aid in the development or the enhancement of existing content. We also developed and revised where necessary the different modes of assessment that were required under these different courses and modules, as well as develop relevant rubrics where necessary to assist faculty members in using them for different types of assessments. We also did a comprehensive review of the delivery of the courses, and we also had extensive discussions with students as well as faculty in determining how these courses could be better delivered, especially in the virtual learning environment. We also identified and selected, in consultation with faculty members, the best approaches or methodologies to deliver the curated content. We went through a series of content validation sessions with the faculty and with the Council of the Community Colleges of Jamaica, as well as develop and design a structured learning management system facilitated on Moodle. So there were a total of 13 courses, specialized courses, that were developed under the Agri-Processing and Business Management Associate's degree. These courses include Introduction to Food Chemistry, that reviews the basic scientific principles of food systems and their components. It is typically offered in year 1 in the second semester and has both theoretical and practical components. Introduction to Food Processing, which looks into the main principles and techniques used in processing foods. Also a year 1 and semester 2 course in general and includes both theoretical and practical components. Food Safety and Quality Management Systems, that look at the role and importance of food safety in the development and commercialization of foods and food technologies. This was a theoretical course typically offered in year 1 and semester 2. Food and Sustainable Agriculture, that looks at the social, economic, and environmental dimensions of the food industry and includes, and it was largely a theoretical course. Food Introduction to Food Microbiology, that looks at the importance and the impact of microorganisms in the safety and quality of foods. It is typically offered in the first semester of the first year for the associate's degrees, and it includes both theoretical and practical components. Standards, Regulations, and Ethics, which looks at the regulatory environment that governs the food industry, and this is a second year course offered in the second semester and consists of only theoretical components. There is Introduction to Post-Harvest Technology, that looks at the biochemical associations with food maturity, ripening, dormancy, and deterioration. It too is a second year course offered over theoretical and practical components. There's a Fundamental of Agricultural Sciences, which provide a framework that looks at the importance and the scientific approaches to agriculture, also related to health, food security, and the economy. This is a first year course offered in semester 1 and includes both theoretical and practical components. There's Logistics and Supply Chain Management, which looks at the key functional areas in the supply of food, offered in year 2 and semester 1 and includes only theoretical components. There's also Introduction to Finance and Agribusiness, that looks at the key aspects of agribusiness and financial management in related organizations. This is a year 1 course offered over theoretical components only. There's Introduction to Food Engineering, that looks at the main techniques used in designing and engineering of food systems. This is both a theoretical and practical course offered in year 2. Food Science and Human Nutrition, which looks at the importance of nutrients to human health and the impact on food systems. This is a year 2 course offered only via theoretical components. And the last course that was developed is the Food and Product Development Capstone Project. It is a student-led innovation type project that looks at the application of the production and delivery of new foods to the market. This is a final year or a year 2 project, and it's offered strictly over practical components. We will now look at the 10 courses that were offered or that were developed for the Health and Wellness Tourism Associate's degrees. So there is Sanitation, Safety and Hygiene, which looks at the requisite procedures for the hospitality industry with a focus on HACCP. This is a year 1 course offered in semester 2 and is a theoretical course. There's Quality and Customer Care, which looks at the role of quality customer service in health and wellness tourism organizations. It is offered in year 1, typically during the summer, and is also 45 hours of theory. There is Law and Ethics for Health and Wellness Tourism, which looks at the fundamental legal and ethical principles in operating a health and wellness tourism business. It is a final year course offered over 45 hours of contact hours of theory and offered in this fourth semester or the second semester of year 2. There is Introduction to Spa Techniques that looks at the range of spa techniques and services that can be offered in a wellness tourism context. It includes both theoretical and practical contact hours and is offered in the first semester of the course. There is Introduction to Wellness Coaching, which looks at the field of wellness coaching as an innovative part of the health and wellness tourism business model, and it looks at the fundamental principles and components of this area. It's offered in year 2, over 45 hours of theory. Introduction to Personal Fitness Training was also developed, and it introduces the basic fitness techniques or training techniques with a focus on the activities that would occur in a wellness tourism setting. Also offered over 45 hours of theoretical contact learning. There is a Health and Wellness Tourism Management course that looks at the overarching principles that govern the health and wellness tourism industry. It is offered in semester 1 and over 45 theoretical hours. There is then Anatomy, Physiology and Nutrition for Wellness Tourism, and this teaches or introduces students to the basic scientific principles of anatomy, physiology and nutrition as it relates to wellness tourism. The capstone major project for health and wellness tourism was also developed for this course. It looked at the students' ability to develop and design unique and innovative services and products offered that could be offered under health and wellness tourism. It looks at the application of various skills and knowledge and competencies that were developed over previous courses. It is offered in the final year and takes place through 30 hours of theoretical contact hours and 45 hours of practical based activities. Then there is complementary and alternative treatment. It deals with the products and services that are available in health and wellness tourism as an adjunct to the medical and clinical care. And this is offered over 45 hours. So what were the main methods used in the development of the online courses or the conversion of the online courses for these 23 courses? So there are 4 main approaches that were used. One, there was a very comprehensive curriculum mapping exercise where the curriculum itself for each course was reviewed fully, and then the best recommendations or resources that we believed could match the specific curriculum objectives were proposed or mapped. So this curriculum mapping exercise essentially resulted in a series of curriculum maps for each course, for each unit and for each module, aligned to a series of resources, educational resources or tools that could be used in the development and the delivery of these courses in the classroom. An inventory mapping exercise was done, so consultations with faculty that were currently teaching the courses was done to determine the extent to which the existing resources were available for these particular courses. Then we developed the different pieces of content. Either these were either developed from scratch or they were repurposed from existing teaching and learning resources that faculty provided to us. And then the learning management system using Moodle, which is a Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica's approved learning management system, was used to design and upload all the contents that were developed for these 23 courses. So the key activities in executing these different methodologies included, of course, consultations. That was a very, very critical component. I'd like to especially acknowledge those faculty members and those institutions that were a very key part of ensuring that the online conversion or the development of these online tools were aligned to best practices that were instituted within the actual colleges themselves, those that were teaching the actual programs face to face, and then due to the pandemic in virtual or hybrid modalities. So consultation with faculty, with students, and with the council was a very critical activity through the process. A kind of strict analysis of the curricula, of development delivery, of the lesson delivery plans was done to identify what was currently being done in the classrooms, where were the gaps, what were the best approaches to fill in those gaps, what were the capacity issues that could prevent faculty from properly delivering content that was developed. All this type of analysis and resulting strategies were also a very critical component. Design was very, very critical. We had to go through a very systemic design process to ensuring that after we did our consultations with faculty and after we did an analysis of where the partner institutions were and where they hoped to be, that we were proposing a feasible and applicable curriculum map and set of resources that align to the needs of institutions. After that curriculum mapping and lesson planning proposals were accepted by faculty members, then we went straight into the development of the content. And by development of the content, we're talking about the actual resources that would have been developed and implemented through the development of the learning management systems in Moodle. After the development process and the build out of the learning management systems on Moodle, another set of consultations were done with faculty to review the content and to review the learning management systems in Moodle to ensure that these were suitable for use in the classrooms. Thereafter, an analysis and feedback was done of the project at large. What were the gaps? What were the major issues? What were the major successes? What lessons could be learned in moving forward in similar projects? And these will actually be discussed at the end of this video. So what were the key outcomes? We developed curriculum and lesson plans and maps that were aligned to the curricula of 23 courses offered under the 2 associate degree programs. These curriculum maps and lesson plans include very detailed and structured approaches on how this particular curriculum and objectives could be delivered in an online learning setting. So this includes specific content, it includes specific resources, it includes recommended evaluations, and it includes, of course, specific tools that would be utilized. We also ensure that in the curriculum and lesson mapping exercise that any proposed tools were developed so that it aligned with Moodle as the key learning management system. So on the right of your screen, you can actually see an example of a curriculum, of a part of a curriculum map. This is for health and wellness, tourism, law and ethics. So it shows a particular unit and the particular week of instructions that we are proposing. Then it would outline the different pieces of content that would be developed over the particular number of contact hours as stipulated by the different curricula. Then we looked at specific learning outcomes or objectives as identified in the curricula. Then we discussed whether these would be theoretical components or practical components, and the extent to which we expected mastery at the end of each content use or utilization in the classroom. Do we expect the student to have an introductory level of mastery, practice, or actual mastery at the end of that particular set of use of or introduction to the particular pieces of content? Through this particular project, we were able to develop more than 1,500 separate tools or educational resources that faculty could use in the delivery of the content in an online learning setting. So that really was a very active development process. And the different types of resources would include introductory resources or introductory activities that allowed faculty to gauge the scope of knowledge and to allow the students to also do their own internal reflections on the particular application of the information to come. So it allowed both faculty and students to assess the extent to which they understood the materials to come and to also give them a taste of what is to come. We also developed quite a bit of PowerPoint presentations or PowerPoint slides, which was a very important tool for the delivery of theory, but we also ensure that it includes quite a bit of visual content as well in order to support the delivery of theory. We did a lot of practical videos. This includes things like virtual tours, demonstrations, experiments that were aligned or recommended to the curriculum, particularly for those courses that had practical components. We also included experts, industry experts, to give presentations in different formats. So if there were ever issues of experts being able to come into the classroom physically due to COVID, we have pre-recorded presentations by select representatives within industry. We also included a series of documents. These documents are either in the form of PDF. In some cases there were links to specific websites, for example. In some cases there were freely available books that were in the public domain that were utilized to help to supplement information or supplement the knowledge that students would have been developed through these additional pieces of content, case studies, manuals, etc. We also included evaluation activities. So at the end of each lesson, at the end of the student going through these lessons, they would do a very short and concise activity that will help to evaluate the extent to which they have acquired the knowledge or skills of these lessons. Now, these evaluation activities were not designed to substitute for actual graded assessments. Graded assessments are the responsibilities of the faculty, but these evaluation activities help to allow some micro assessments throughout the course to ensure that no student is being left behind. We also tried our best to cater for different learning styles. So the visual learner, we focused a lot on infographics, on PowerPoints, and on PDF resources that would help the visual learner. For the auditory learner, we included links to YouTube videos. We included guest lectures, interviews, podcasts to help with the auditory learner. For those that learn best through reading and writing, we have several discussion boards throughout all the courses. We have evaluation and introductory activities that allow for the contribution or the development or the application of learning through reading and writing. And then the kinesthetic learner, we have of course included experiments. To some extent, introductory activities and evaluation activities also require some hands-on activities or exercises to help to implement or to reinforce the different pieces of knowledge or pieces of content that were developed in the particular program. I'd also like to make special reference to labor bridging. One of the biggest issues that has emerged out of this particular activity is how do we give students an opportunity to engage with industry. And it's a very difficult area to address, largely because there are safety considerations for the institutions and students, but there are also safety considerations for industry. So what we did was we developed content that helped to substitute in the best way that we could the labor bridging types of activities. So we made an effort to bring industry directly into the virtual classroom by taking experts in, by giving an insight into the different operations, and by looking into the specific skills and knowledge from the industry perspective that would be required. The tools that were developed to help to support these or to mimic some of these labor bridging exercises include things like experiments, virtual tours, demonstrations, guest lectures, podcasts and interviews. To some extent, we also gave access to local and relevant YouTube videos that we believe would help to give students some insight or some access, albeit remotely, to the specific industries aligned to the curriculum for the courses that were developed. As an extension of that, I'd like to give specific acknowledgement to some of these industry partners that came in to assist us in providing these resources, in providing these recommendations, into providing these tools that help to enrich the courses at different points within the different units. So Bureau of Standards Jamaica, for example, Iberia Star, Sandal, CV Group, Institute of Jamaica are just some examples of some of those partners that we engaged in the development and the delivery of content. So the future. So we've developed these courses, we work closely with partners, we work closely with the council, we work closely with specific institutions in the development of these projects, in the development and execution of this project. But what is held for the future? What are some of the considerations as faculty watching this video and about to utilize these resources or learn how to utilize these resources? What does this mean for the future of your classroom? So I think some of the areas that we need to focus on as faculty members is ensuring that faculty have the requisite capacity, knowledge, skills in the utilization of educational resources in the delivery of content online. So teacher training is very important because several of the courses also include a practical component. The faculty has to be creative. Faculty has to ensure that they can use and utilize the proposed practicals that we have recommended in these courses to ensure that students are still getting the benefits of developing their practical skills in those select courses. There also needs to be a discussion around the conversion of additional courses. The truth is that only some courses, as I said, a total of 23 over 2 associate's degrees that were actually converted. There needs to be some discussion about the additional courses. How are those going to be converted and aligned to the standards of these courses that were developed? Training institutions for conversions is also an important component. You can certainly identify those courses, but you also need to, and that's what this particular presentation also hopes to introduce you to. How can you train the institutions to actually convert their courses aligned to this council's policies? Intellectual property was also a very significant issue that emerged in this course. How do we help to leverage and partner with existing faculty members, with students and their intellectual ideas and approaches, with industry that contributes in materials? How do we manage all these intellectual assets to ensure that we develop and utilize the content in the online learning modality, because this means the content is going to be even more widely available. How do we ensure that we manage these intellectual assets in an ethical and sustainable way? Adjunct lecturing, we know, is a very important component of the delivery of new curricula. Getting experts to join your teaching teams to deliver a component is important. But on the other side, we have to ensure that there's a sustainable way of ensuring that adjunct lecturers are utilizing these tools in the delivery of curriculum. Prioritizing courses as you go through the development of the online conversion or development of these courses is also important. As mentioned before, there are several other courses. How do you determine which are the most important to develop or to convert online? The learning management systems for Moodle. Moodle is a very robust learning management system, and we must not forget that teachers and students have to have their capacities enhanced in fully utilizing Moodle as a learning management system for their own educational purposes. And then finally, as you go through the online course development process, you come to realize that curriculum or curricula should always be in a process of enhancement or a process of development. So as the time comes around for the review of curricula, it is important that we make note and make reference to those areas that we believe could be strengthened, those areas that we believe could better be connected to industry, and we look at some specific recommendations on how we can strengthen and refine existing curricula. Because going through the online conversion process really allows for a very comprehensive review, and we must ensure that we take specific notes for those areas for the additional development of content on curriculum. Should always be at the forefront of this exercise. So that concludes this particular presentation. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any particular questions on this project, please feel free to contact FHI 360, the Council of the Community Colleges of Jamaica, or myself, who was the lead consultant on this particular project, at the details below. Thank you very much for listening.